our roll call of the So I'd like to, are we ready, Adam? I'd like to call this meeting of the Lakota Board of Education to order. Adam, please call the roll.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Sorry, here.
Mr. Horton.
Here.
Mr. D.
Here.
Now Liberty Township.
Mr. Schramm.
Here.
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
And Mr. Manier is absent.
Get a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Casper.
Yes.
Mr. D.
Yes.
Mr. Horton.
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Liberty, do you need to approve the agenda? No, you're good. Okay. Do a pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, everybody, welcome. Thank you for coming today and joining us for this community partnership collaboration forum. When we set up the room on Friday, my team and I, we realized that there wasn't flags, so put a flag up with that. Thank you for that. Thanks to Kimba for letting us use this facility, and thank you all for your time today. Okay, so to set the stage on kind of what this idea is, where this came from, as we went through the bond process back in the fall, it became very apparent as we talked to many of the different entities that support the community that maybe there would be an opportunity for all of us to collaborate, to look to join forces to see if we could, when I look at personally, like my home, I live here, I pay one tax bill. So when you look at this one tax bill, is there an opportunity that we could collaborate together to either enhance what that is or minimize what that costs for all of us to do better for this community as a whole? So that was kind of the thought behind putting this meeting together. So I appreciate everybody's time and coming together to join us. Okay, so as mentioned, bringing stakeholders together, the forum will unite multiple community entities to explore joint strategies for strengthening local services and governance. We want to have an open dialogue to initiate open, solution-oriented discussions, also share priorities, and identify any shared challenges that we all may be experiencing. Then this will be transparent. We'll have a mutual level of respect, just to kind of set the stage. Mutual level of respect and commitment to the community betterment as a whole, and guide the forum's collective, collaborative approach. So if we would, we'd start with some introductions. We can start at this side. May introduce yourself and what group you're from.
Paul Carpenter, I'm the CFO of Butler Tech. Good morning, Joe Henson, Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance.
Lisa Brown, Township Administrator for Chester Township.
And Becker, Chester Township trustee.
Amanda Ortiz, Westchester Trustee-elect.
Isaac David, Lakota Schools.
Ashley Whiteley, Superintendent of Local Schools. Sheila Schaefer, Lakota Butler Tech Board Member. Kelly Casper, Lakota Board.
Douglas Horton, Lakota School Board Member. Alex Argo, Lakota School Board Member elect.
Judy Boyd, Butler County Administrator.
Tom Farrell, Liberty Township trustee. Steve Schramm, Liberty Township trustee.
Pam Finless, Liberty Township fiscal officer.
John Lewis, Assistant Administrator of Liberty Township.
Now, if we would, let's take a little moment. Maybe we'll get the administrators for each group. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but just to kind of give a high-level overview of what each entity really does, what their core focus is on, and what we're delivering for the community. Dr. Whiteley, if you'd like to begin.
So as the school district of Lakota Local Schools, our main priority is to educate children, right? We educate all students who are enrolled within Westchester.
Do you have a microphone? I can't even hear.
Sorry, I can try to project with my teacher voice, excuse me. As the,
Thank you.
As the public school district in Westchester and Liberty Township, our job is to educate all children who are enrolled in our public schools. Our main priority is to deliver a top-notch, rigorous education and in turn do that in a very fiscally responsible way for our taxpayers.
I'll just go this way.
Good morning. I'm pleased to be here. Many of you I know, many of you I look forward to meeting and getting to know better. I work with a lot of you. At the county level, it's really hard to describe. We are a statutory permissive form of government, so everything that the county level of services is based on Ohio Revised Code. We generally, at the county level, not generally, we specifically serve those areas that the local communities, municipalities, villages, or townships do not. Job and family services or social service like arrangements, anything that's required by statute and also through federal funding. Community development grant programs, things like that. Of course, as you all know, the county form of government, there are multiple elected offices. So the highest legislative body is your board of commissioners, for whom I report and work. And other elected offices, of course, with the sheriff and the prosecutor, the judges, the whole criminal justice system, the board of elections. So it's a wide array of duties.
Does anybody for Liberty want to do Caroline's work?
John's gonna take it. If not, we'll jump it.
We're gonna take our best shot at this. At its basic form, township government is really about public safety, police, fire. Obviously, we handle roads and working with our county and state partners on the various roads that travel through the township, and then for zoning as well. Butler Tech provides career training and development for secondary students for all 10 schools within Butler County, as well as Northwest Coleraine, as well as adult ed career technical programming.
Joe Henson, Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance. Next year we'll be in the community for 50 years. So at Chamber of Commerce, we support free enterprise. The big push for us is business and education, bringing both together and support of not only today, but the future. We look at sustainability. The two townships, you know how important the two townships are to helping bridge the gap between Cincinnati and Dayton, bringing the entire region together as one. And very supportive of all that are here today. And in support of that, as a shameless plug, we just found out a couple of weeks ago through Ohio Business Magazine that we were voted best chamber of commerce in the state of Ohio. Over 360 chambers of, thank you. Over 360 chambers in the state of Ohio, and this is the third time in 6 years. So you're clapping, and you should feel proud too, because you support us and support the community. And it says a lot about who we are as a community and as a region, so thank you.
For Westchester, we're a large urban township, so beyond just the police, fire, and road services that we're statutorily required to provide, we also, in Westchester, are focusing on quality of life amenities. Our mission statement is to be where families grow and businesses prosper, and so we are investing not only in those basic services, but also exploring, expanding our reach in a fiscally responsible manner to ensure that we continue to be the place where people want to be, both on the business side and the resident side.
Thank you all. So as we can see, although we all provide different services, we all have a joint vested interest in making sure that the community, we deliver as well as we can for the community. And to make sure, is there any challenges that anybody at your local levels have seen that through a group effort that, maybe could enhance a little bit? Yeah, Ms. Brown, let me bring these up.
Sure.
So one thing that we've been hearing from our community is that they would like to have more parks and recreational amenities and would like to grow in that area. However, that's not a focus that the township has ever really had in the past. We have some more passive recreation. We have some recreational facilities, But what we're hearing from the community is that they want us to focus on investing in that. So we're just in the process of trying to figure out, what does that look like? How do we fund that in a responsible manner? And how do we ensure that what we build is not only what people want today, but also what people will want, moving into the future, because it's not just about today, it's about 10 years, 20, 50 years from now. So I think that's a space that we all have kind of been exploring. I mean, the schools, obviously, you have your facilities that you need to provide. Liberty, I know that you're focusing on some of your parks spaces. So that's one thing just kind of top of mind, where maybe we could work to collaborate to create some shared spaces.
One of the challenges that we've recently been experiencing is there's been a lot of changes within the state legislature as far as property tax reform has went. And it's not that we don't always look toward this and try to figure out ways that we can maximize, but it's also putting different restraints on the revenues that we're going to be seeing coming in, which is then going to maybe speed up the process on where we look for some of the opportunities to be more fiscally responsible, if we can be, so that we don't have to maybe look to reductions of programming and things in the short term until we figure out kind of how this is going to shake out a little bit. Anyone else have anything that they would like to add?
Maybe you can speak to just the state share change, how that's impacting.
Well, on the school side, so, at the state level of funding for the portion that we get, and, I'm not as familiar with this, if this local entities get the state share like the schools do. But when we had a funding change, it's dropped our state share from 19% last year down to 11% this year, which has definitely put a little different constraints on what we're looking maybe to do to become even more operationally efficient, so that, we can capture more economy of scale. Did I hit the mark there, Ms. Schaefer? Sorry. Anybody have anything else? Anything on the Liberty side, Butler County side? Anything that you guys are really kind of boiling to the top of your pots?
Well, I think you hit it, property tax. I think that's a major component of the conversation before the future, that it's not only able to continue to provide services, able to structurally budget and pass and adopt structurally.
Excuse me, I'm kind of sore throat, so I can't remember my logic. But I think property taxes are just the new landscape of the state legislature and their focus. There's going to be a gubernatorial election next year, so it's going to be something that the whole administration is going to change. So I think it's navigating all of the unknowns.
Obviously, the property tax for us as well, but the other thing that I want to mention is the economy of scales that we can use. These organizations put together are much larger, and using that economy of scales for purchasing and things along those lines could be a big advantage going forward.
Property taxes, of course, is top of mind for all of our constituents, but I do truly believe that the time is right for us as our little region to work a lot more structurally, organizationally focused on shared services. Because I think, to go off what Tom said, we all buy salt, we all buy trucks, we all buy computers, and there are a lot of different things in our range of services that we provide that, if working together, we can do better. And I think that, as a taxpayer and a representative of the taxpayer, I think that's what I expected our governments to do. And I think as I've become an elected official and worked through the process, it's very difficult. I don't want to say legally, but kind of legally, to do the contracts, to do the price negotiations, to do all the things that make shared services possible. And I do appreciate this experience, Adam, bringing us all together, because this is the first step that we need to take to do some of that formal work, that formal organization, to make those shared services and the investment of our taxpayers the best we possibly can do. So I appreciate everyone being here today.
I think through my travels, that's how I refer to it, through my travels this fall, I feel like I'm kind of like in the host. I don't really do that, but through my travels this fall, it really did kind of surprise me because in the environment we're in today, I think that it felt a little bit like you or us or, from all of the different angles, but we all kind of, if we can figure out ways to come together to enhance what we're doing, at the end of the day, we're all delivering for the community as a whole. Anyone else?
In addition to economies of scale, I think I'm interested in delivery of services. So just our footprint as Lakota Schools, we touch 17,000 kids every day. Plus, if you look at the community, if your kid plays youth basketball, chances are it's in our gyms. If he plays basketball or softball, chances are it's on our baseball fields, et cetera, et cetera. So I think just when we talk about things like focusing in on recs and parks, there's delivery of those services that we could look to combine in a way that benefits our constituents.
Or I walk back up there again. Anyone else for the topic of challenges or opportunity type? Okay. Just raise your hand if you think of anything. I will always be happy for somebody to give me a break. Okay, so when doing a little research and looking into this, some opportunities that we found that have been successful in other places are typically going to be around, with the exception of snow plowing or lawn mowing. I believe I heard the snow plowing, even we snow plow, even we have to put salt down. But it's typically going to be in more of the form of shared services, because with us providing educations, I don't think of anybody else besides Butler Tech's really going to be providing the education, and we do partner with them on a lot of things as well. But on the shared service side, if we could capture some capacity items where we could get some economy of scale, you'll see things like maintenance, custodial. It could be financial operations. It could be on the financial side where we work. Facilities being another really large one, where sometimes when we're using facilities, other people aren't using facilities and vice versa, where we could really get more maximum use, because at the end of the day, like everybody found with our bond issue, everybody's paying for these things. Everybody has a vested interest due to, that's part of that one tax bill that we have coming out. Make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, so when looking into this, I believe what my idea was, or one of my takeaways was, is there ways that we could look into more of a longer term? Don't get me wrong, there's always going to be some projects. There's going to be some short-term projects that, we may look at. But could there possibly be a vested interest within all of the groups to see if there would be an interest into taking a deeper dive into some of these topics for a long-term partnership, or just short terms, or even it could just be meeting up periodically to just make sure that we're collaborating or having these conversations together, because there was a lot of things that I learned over the fall of, I never would have thought that townships had some of these type issues, and they probably couldn't believe we had some of the similar ones. So now we'll have a little bit of a open discussion around. Anybody have any additional idea? I think we kind of touched on that a little bit. Anybody have any additional ideas on opportunities, shared service-wise? I believe we partnered with, at one point, with Westchester, even on like fuel. We had some pumps and, charge stuff like that. Anybody have any ideas that they would like to share? We'll take some notes. This is part of why I wanted Joe to be here, because then I was hopeful that maybe over a bigger economy of scale, maybe we could get to the business side as well.
One of the things that we've said over the years that as Lakota goes, so goes Westchester and Liberty Townships. I think that's in all communities, but we see that here today, and I want to make sure that we say that as an organization. With that said, this is from the outside looking in. So I know that Lakota's asked for help and support from the townships, from the chamber. My question is this: what has Lakota done that today we have already heard that Westchester is interested in looking at Parks and Recreation, what has Lakota done to reach out to Westchester and say, hey, what can we do to be helpful and supportive of you? What are your needs? Same way with Liberty Township. I got a new interchange that's going in. What are some of the things that we can be helpful and supportive of you as you look at furthering that opportunity and moving forward? So my point being is that the partnership or collaboration has to go both ways. And I'm not sure in this process if there's been opportunities where Lakota's reversed that and has reached out to the townships as an example, or Butler Tech, or the county, and said, what is it we can be doing to help and support you? And maybe that's happened, I'm not sure, but I just want to make sure that from outside looking in, that's how you build a relationship and support each other, not only today, but in the future.
Please let me clarify too. Looking at this group as a group of entities, not looking at how can you all help Lakota, but how can we join forces as an entity to support this community in a better way.
Kind of what that Joe mentioned, this fall was very eye-opening for me. As a new superintendent here and a community member of 20 years, and I'm going to be very vulnerable when I say this, I do not feel like that we have a partnership. I know that we say, so goes Lakota and so goes Westchester and Liberty Township, but I can tell you it did not feel that way. It did not feel that way in some of the public meetings. It certainly did not feel that way on social media. And I think where I struggle is that when I put my hat on as the superintendent of Lakota Local Schools, there are certainly things I know I'm not naive enough to think that we are always going to agree on everything. Certainly. But I think there was a level of professionalism that was lost. And what I mean by that is I might disagree with you and have professional dialogue, but to go to social media or send letters to people's homes that vehemently oppose one of our entities is where I struggle. As a superintendent, whatever you put on the ballot as a community, as a Liberty Township or Westchester, whatever it be, I would not write a letter as the superintendent and put my name on it and say, you should oppose this. And so I'm being very vulnerable when I say that, but I think if we really want to have true collaboration, we have to learn to have better dialogue with each other face to face. And then we also have to say, sometimes we can express our opinion and then be perhaps more neutral than what we were publicly, because there is a disagreement. Again, professional dialogue is fine, but I would never sit at the board table, and I think I can speak for the five of us and the people who are coming to the table. And I don't think we would ever sit at the board table and say, don't support the fire levy or don't support the police levy. But that is exactly what happened to Lakota Local Schools. And so when we talk about reciprocity, again, I'm being very vulnerable. I think we really need to examine that if we are going to have true relationships together.
Thank you so much, Dr. Whiteley. You spoke what is in my heart. I believe that this initiative is long overdue. This is the beginning where we're going to begin to solve our problems, because we have been working contrary to each other. Meanwhile, we're supposed to be working together as a team, because we all represent this community. So I agree with what you said. And to add to that is to say that we are now waking up to do the right thing. That way, if any of the entities here have anything, this is the forum where we discuss it, so that we all rally around and support that cause. As long as the cause is explained and everybody is on board, or if there are differences, we review it and make suggestions, and then all rally around and support it. So I believe that we are doing the right thing at this time. And that's what I want to add to it. Thank you.
As someone who just very recently campaigned on this very idea and had a lot of conversations with people in our community, they
already thought this was happening. And I think they were pretty shocked when they realized that everyone kind of operates as different entities. And so I think that this meeting is already a big step in the right direction, extending the olive branch. There've been some changes and some shakeups with some of the boards, and I think this is a really good first step. And I don't think we need to necessarily get into the nitty gritty today of sharing salt costs or whatever, but I think this is a really great start of promising to meet on a regular basis, having all these members of the community, and just promising to, again, we don't all have to agree, as Dr. Whiteley said, but promising to work together to really try and benefit the residents, the students, everyone, the business owners in the community, making sure that everyone has a seat at the table and they're being advocated for. So I'm really happy that this meeting's happening.
One of the things I love about our community is our level of pride. And with that level of pride comes a semblance of tribalism. Our place, your place. It kind of becomes there's always that fun rivalry of Lakota East, Lakota West. We kind of pump it up a little bit. But I do agree that the time has come and the taxpayers, with their opinions on property taxes in particular, are demanding that we tear down some of the silos that we have built, whether it's in services or just as our geographic boundaries. I'm not going to invade Liberty or anything, but sometimes I do think about it. But no, joking. But it is time to really look at us as more of a Lakota region instead of a Westchester, a Liberty, a Lakota as separate entities. One of the things, and I again appreciate Adam bringing this to us, but one of the things I've looked at as we've thought through this idea the past couple weeks is the idea of creating a regional council of governments. Under Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 167, gives us the right as legal entities to create a legal structure, something that's recognized legally, transparent, accountable, a framework, a legal recognized framework that we can create to work through these shared services. Because what I said before about the legal contractual aspects of it is true. And that's the part I think, Amanda, that the taxpayers expect us to do it, but it is truly difficult. So that is something that I come to the table with today to propose, and I'm not sure if Butler Tech would want to jump in on that. Maybe they would, to work through some of these shared services ideas. But creating a regional council of governments that represents Liberty, represents Westchester, represents Lakota in a fair and organized way that gives us the legal structure to be able to execute on some of these ideas that we have on the table today.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think from a productivity standpoint, if the purpose of this meeting is to look at areas that we can collaborate for shared services, the key would be for all of us to look at either services or things that we all share in common that we could partner with. So we all have facilities, which means we all have maintenance. Transportation, I know the two schools as well as public transportation, there's always issues with transportation, as well as bus mechanics. Areas that everyone has in common is the way to create a shared service. Because if you don't have that service or area, there's no point in really that discussion. So if the premise of this is to really look at collaboration, we should be looking at what do we all have in common? What areas do we see deficits in, and where can we all potentially either share costs, share people, share facilities, or share products or property.
Okay, thank you all. That was really good. It was something that one of the meetings I had, there was a big conversation around the property tax reform, the repeal, the overhaul, and one of our state level elected officials made the comment that this is a $24 million or $1 billion shift in where this is coming from. Is it coming from property taxes? Is it coming from who knows where, right? There doesn't seem to be a really good idea of what that might look like. But one of the points that I made back was at the end of the day, we all have to do what our community expects to be delivered for this community, and at the best price point we possibly can. I live here also. I live up in Liberty Township. I do not want to pay a nickel more in taxes than anybody else does. You know, we all agree, money's better in our own pockets than it is in anybody else's. So that's what, if we can figure out ways to look toward opportunities to enhance, you know, that could be something worth looking into. I think we touched on this one. So, question I would have for the group is, do we believe that this is a conversation that we should continue? You know, Ms. Becker referenced some ORC, but maybe if we could get a smaller group together to kind of drill deeper into this to see if this is something that feasibility-wise could even be feasible for this community. Anybody?
Yes. Yes.
Sure.
I think anytime you get people together with a common goal, hopefully, and a common interest, I think is good. I think, first of all, I want to congratulate Lakota Schools for making this happen. I think it's wonderful. Over the years, I've seen from our chamber perspective that the relationship continues to get better and better between the two townships. So thank you, townships. And to our county, Judy Boyko used to be in Westchester, so I think that we've got a good nucleus right here. We've also had, a turnover in leadership, and so that takes some time for people to connect with new leaders. I mean, and it doesn't happen overnight. And respect is earned over a period of time. And so, Ashley, as you were talking before, as you, I'm sure know, there's nothing personal against you, but you walked into a situation that had been brewing for some time. So this is just not just like that. But with that said, I think for opportunities, in my opinion, to be able to get together, converse, get to know each other, work toward, as you were saying, and with an interest in kind of a regional perspective. Our name is Westchester Liberty, or Liberty Westchester Chamber Alliance, and there's a reason for that. We like to see where we can bring everybody together. Lakota Schools feels that way. I've seen that with Westchester. I've seen it with Liberty. So I think there's a nice foundation in moving forward. And obviously with what we see with Butler County, the interest into the eastern side of this county is very important. So I think fundamentally you have, players that want to do this. Now I think the opportunity to converse and come together like this, I think is a good opportunity.
I would propose that, I haven't, we haven't done like a formal vote on whether or not creating a more formal structure is the best move. I'm not quite sure how those steps of legal progression would be established. We'd have to do an MOU, we'd have to probably write bylaws to establish an organization, and that might take some time. So I would suggest next steps would probably be the administrators of the organizations that would be represented would get together and kind of hash out what that would look like, what it would need to become and grow, because having a bunch of politicians in a room talking about legal steps is never fun. But not that we're not capable, but there are legal aspects to establishing a new organization. So that would be my proposal. Next steps would be admin for each organization, get together, try to figure out what the legal steps would be, and then reestablish the larger organization to do maybe some more formalization, maybe in 6 months, 3 months, depending on the time frame necessary for the discussion for the administrators.
While I appreciate that perspective, and it's something that we definitely want to keep our eye on, because anything that would come from this, we would need all of that in place. I think what I want to make sure is that there is the willingness and the commitment to agree on what these joint goals are and what does this look like. Because forming all of that bureaucracy to save a little bit of money on salt doesn't feel like what the community is asking for us. It's more of really understanding where is their alignment. And Joe, I think you mentioned a really good thing, is that trust has to be earned. And so I think making sure that all these organizations are coming together and agreeing on a shared vision of what this could look like, and have those tangible, what we're going to collaborate on is the fuel for everything that would be put into that framework. But I think if we get bogged down in the framework today, we don't have the right fruitful discussions to agree that this is where we're going to combine, whether that's SALT, whether that's parks and recreation, whether that's, transportation. We haven't even talked about health services delivery. There's a lot that we can still explore here. And I think once we have that commitment from all the organizations on where we're going to focus, then that'll make that effort a whole lot easier.
As I look around the table, I've failed to recognize Butler Tech again as another partner. They're doubling the size of their facility. We talk about healthcare. That's a focus here on the Cincinnati-Dayton Road and I-75 on healthcare. So, as I look around, I get a smile on my face because of just looking at the partnerships that we have here, the relationships we have here. Again, I go back to that. So I want to make sure that everybody knows we recognize what Butler Tech is investing in our community with the support of healthcare along I-75.
So I just want to ask if I understood clearly what your goal is, because to get everybody together next time is going to be difficult getting all our schedules together. So my understanding is the head of the units currently present should first of all continue to spearhead this until we put the structure together. Am I right? Because if we are going to continue to meet like this, it's difficult to get everybody together. So my understanding is the head of each unit here should continue with this until we build a structure. Is that what you said?
I think, to Doug's point, that it is good to have some aspirational ideas going forward. And I think the list that you gave was really good. Exploring healthcare, exploring recreational facilities, exploring shared services, purchasing, that kind of thing. And I think those 3 or 4 items are a really good list to start with. But we can't go, hey, let's buy salt, because we can't contractually do that. So that's where I think I jumped over where you, and I do that sometimes. ADHD is riddled all throughout my body, but I really think that I think everyone in the group kind of agrees there are definitely places that we can explore to continue on this conversation. I as an elected official and as a taxpayer, I know there are legal ramifications to the contractual obligations that we'd be committing ourselves to. So I kind of jumped. I apologize. I kind of jumped to the end. I'm like, let's get this done. We have to have a mechanism to get it done. Let's create the mechanism to execute the work. So, but I appreciate you trying to push us toward more. Here's what we should be doing. I agree with that. So that exploration is very valid. I jumped the step.
Thank you. As one of the smallest budgets in the room, we would love to have your buying power. So working together makes sense. But with that said too, I also want to everybody talked about the taxes being a big issue. Together, going to our state legislation would give us a lot more power than going individually. So it's not just about the buying power, it's not just about the relationships in our community, it's about outside of the community and getting the state legislators to look at this group together. I think would be a huge asset. Now, with all that said, Ann, you did a great deal of work on this to begin with. I appreciate it because I love to see what you did, and I agree with all of it. My biggest concern is, do we have the bandwidth to do it? And I know Lisa's smiling when I say that, because a lot of this work is put on our administrators. And I love the idea, but we really need to make sure if we don't have the bandwidth, we won't succeed. So that's my only concern.
Yeah, I apologize for not talking more. I've just been kind of sucking a lot of this in. I think we have 2 issues to what Ashley had said earlier. there's a professional courtesy, and then there's also individual relationships. And the open meetings laws and other statutory issues make it very difficult for the organizations that interact as a group. So what we've tried to do in Liberty is each of us trying to reach out and maintain relationships with different bodies. Tom has been really close with the school board. I've had a couple of people that I've had relationships with. I've had personal contact with my friends in Westchester, not as good with Butler Tech. We try and keep our administrators exchanging information directly. And I think that's the simplest way to get information transfers, to be connected at the finance level, at the admin level. But when it comes to the relationship amongst all of us, several years ago, we were meeting with the school board at least once a year. And we've had meetings with Westchester. I don't think we have with Butler Tech. Obviously, relationships with the county are constantly ongoing. So, I mean, I think we have relationships here. It just may be more fractured because of the structure that we are presented in that make it very complicated to actually kumbaya, every other day. So, certainly we are definitely interested in any kind of collaboration. I think we missed the fact that the state offers the ability to pool buy already. I'm not sure what you call that system we buy through, but there's already a statewide association to buy equipment, to buy product, to buy computers. I don't know that we're going to gain a lot more than that when you've already pulled the state together. But as far as facilities and other issues, certainly lots of room for collaboration. So I like the idea. I respect the initiative. I think it's going to be cumbersome to move this forward as a body.
That was my question.
Yes, Lisa is mad at me. She is. And I absolutely agree. Bandwidth is completely something that for our staff, legal bills, I internalize all of that stuff. But I think not doing it is a bigger risk than doing it. And we don't have to start with renegotiating our entire healthcare policy. But we can start with, hey, what parks do you have? What can we work with Lakota to work with facilities, that kind of thing. We can start with small wins, baby steps, and maybe have over time build more trust, build more stronger relationships, build the process. That's what I think aspirationally, that's what we need to do, because that is what is expected of us by our community. And I think a lot of the concerns that our community had, like a lot of the gripes that we've had, is because we don't know all the amazing things that are going on in our community. Part of it is just basic communication. And I think if we had a group like this that was, formally expected to meet biannually, and we heard more from the school district, and you heard more from us in a more formal setting, similar to this, where we can just banter back and forth, it might give us more of a better communication relationship between the entities. And if that's all that comes from this, that's a win. We could save money, we can improve communication, there's a lot of things that we can do, but if we don't take a step to move forward and try to formalize something, I really think it's a loss for our communities and for our taxpayers.
To that end, when we have met before, we kind of did a opportunity for each group to do a presentation. As I recall, it was 10 or 15 minutes. The last time I remember doing this was actually in the old Liberty Township trustee building, so it's been a minute. But at that, we gave each entity the opportunity to present, and they were able to present kind of their SWOT analysis, and it was a good opportunity for each of us to share and have that better understanding. Westchester's and Liberty, what do we do with our seniors? Where are they going to be? And it gave everybody the light bulbs of going, this is an opportunity. So I think if we do this not only for that shared services, how might we save resources, but secondarily, how might we use this as an opportunity to educate each other as well as our communities as to what is happening? That would be valuable.
You sure can.
I think part of that is this can't be a one and done. Even if what comes out of it is just our vision of what everyone is doing. Because
like, it's been a long time since we did what Steve talked about, and I don't think that we haven't tried any of it. It's just the logistics, the date, the timing. I think we just have to be really intentional on how important this is to our community. Not to just each of us individually, but how important it is to our community. So we just have to be intentional about, yeah, this is a great idea, and then walk out of here and nothing happens. We have to figure out what the next step is. And the next step may be, sorry, Lisa, Ashley, Pam, Judy, the administrators get in a room just to see the legal aspect of it. We don't want to get too far down the road if it's going to be, to Doug's point, so cumbersome that it's not really worth the energy. So we need to have the next step, I feel, before we leave here.
So just an aside, so we are already looking into it legally. I've already started that discussion. I think we all share a crush on, we all share a crush on Todd. So I have started that conversation with our law director, at least to get the basic legal structure down of what would be required. I've done a little bit of research into the ORC and then the auditor state requirements. So that has been started, just as an FYI.
I didn't want to propose it if it wasn't going to be legal. So I said, can you start with this first?
From a business standpoint, since we're focusing here on Lakota, there's a real opportunity to improve those opportunities of connecting with the business community here. And I really appreciate the business people being here today with us. 65 to 70% of the residents here have someone in the school district. We've got over 4,100 businesses in the 2 townships. The business community, I heard this before, I'm not sure exactly if they know how much good Lakota Schools does for students, and is involved with so many different things here, and there's a disconnect. This happened before in 2008. Here we are in 2025. There has to be more of a focus, and we're here to help, to the business community. What is it that Lakota does from an education standpoint in bringing business and education together? The business community is only going to increase here, especially with the new township, or excuse me, a new interchange with over 750 acres of new commercial development. What is it that we also, too, not only the government's coming together, but businesses coming together with Lakota that we can help with to help educate and inform and see all the great things that Lakota is doing. So the value added is not just having a student in the district, but the value added is to your business, to your property, to the sustainability of our communities moving forward. So that's an area that we surely would like to be able to help and work with Lakota Schools and this community here in helping bring the business sector together with what we're talking about today.
Let me bring it back around, Jeff. This isn't just Lakota. This is just this boundary. The boundary that is Lakota, but not Lakota, not about Lakota School. This is about this whole group, is what this conversation was about. See if we could figure out ways, and then business community-wise as well, figure out ways to enhance what we're doing for this entire community through all of our different entities. One thing that I will say for certain is when we were talking through 72 conversations, we heard things like, this is going to be a spending spree. Status quo is easy. Status quo, not doing anything, is always going to be the easiest route. So I understand that this is going to not be easy. I told our board this, they're going to laugh. I said, there's probably going to be times where we all want to kill each other. You know, that's just part of this process because good work's never going to be the easy path to do. Anybody else have anything else they'd like to add? So I'm just going to do a little takeaway. It sounds like everybody seems like.
The other thing I would say, yes, the conversation should continue, but I also don't think anybody in this room should be short-sighted in really what the end result is. It'd be ideal if we could all find services or things to share, but the reality is we're all different entities with all different needs, all different priorities. Through further conversations, even if we can't all come to a collective agreement on a set structure, it doesn't mean that there won't be 2 or 3 of our entities that will find common ground and things that we can share which would be productive as a whole. And as an entity that has done a lot of partnerships with 2 4-year universities, shared facilities, it isn't easy. There's a lot of legal contractual stuff, but it can be done. It does take a lot of work. It isn't easy, but if it was easy, everybody would have already been doing it. The other thing, legislatively, I agree that if we can come collectively as a whole, that will be a lot better than us do it individually. I think beyond that, though, if we can find shared services or go to them with things that we have done or accomplished collectively, that takes it to a whole nother level, because then it's not just us with a message, it's us saying, look at what we've done, look at how we've tried to make an attempt, and these are still the issues, which I think has a lot more powerful message than if we're just doing it vocally.
Okay, and if nothing else, maybe we can get some pickleball nets up in the parking lots and we can add some courts. I had to go there, sorry. I had to lighten the mood a bit. But no, I think what we are hearing is it's definitely worth taking a deeper look into if it's an opportunity. And worst case scenario, what I learned from the fall is worst case scenario, we can all get feedback from each other and see how we can do better for the communities that we're supporting. Get honest feedback from each other. So, anybody else for the good of the order? I believe we are in a public comment section that we added into this public meeting.
Are we done talking about it, or did we end up with what we're doing?
There's just a recap at the end. I mean, it's pretty much, I think. Andy, you have something else you'd like to add before we get to this?
Have we agreed what next steps should be?
We'll do that after this part.
Will you still have proposal for ongoing, monthly delegate meetings? We skipped that all that? You feel like it's time for that? The public comment was the last.
This is why they typically don't let me host meetings. And a summary at the end.
Okay, I guess, is there,
No, go ahead. No, I mean,
it just feel like maybe with the proposal of ongoing collaboration, if there's anything else that anyone wants to add to that, it might be helpful to get everybody on. Can't give Ann that list, but she wants it back.
Lisa, what do you want to do?
Sorry.
No, I really feel like we need to stay, monthly is way too much. Especially having to get all of the, if there's 2 of us in a room, we have to public notice it, so it's really, it's a lot. But I really do think an expectation we could present is have our administrators meet and come up with, hey, will this work, will this not work? And then they can complain to each other about how much work it'll be, let them get it out, and then come back to us. But I'm thinking 3 months. Maybe first quarter of next year.
For the big group.
For the big group.
So the administrators get to meet before that, sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
You're doing the work, so.
by next year, we mean calendar year. Some of us work on fiscal years.
Take the treasure down.
Yeah, maybe like March or April, just to get together. I was whispering to Ann was, some of the background work could be, what would a potential legal structure look like? It may not have to be a formal, council of government. Maybe there is some things we can look at, and then also to determine, some way to analyze, like, what would those cost savings be? Because yes, if it's to save, a couple $1,000s on salt, then that's probably not the best focus for us, but there may be some structures out there to help us to analyze what potential cost savings would be on economy of scale. So to at least give us some opportunity to be able to gather some of that data so that the board, the legislative bodies can make more informed decisions.
Anyone else? Everybody good? Okay, thank you all. We have got to the public comments section that we'll do for this meeting. Bob Hudson-Pillar, we will do since this was kind of new, I will tell you all, this was difficult just setting up how to do a public notice on this one because it included so many people. So we'll do the Lakota 3-minute rule on public participation. And Mr. Hudson-Pillar?
No, I don't have anything at this time. I just signed up in case.
Okay. Next we have, if I say this wrong, I apologize, Todd Wilson. Alicia Tinsfeld. No comment?
Sure, I'll come.
Now let me get my,
Microphone, or, okay.
now let me get my phone out so I can run a 3 minute.
I'm Alicia Tinsfeld at 4912 Silver Creek, Liberty Township. And I appreciate you all being here this morning. I apologize for being a little late. I had to get my second grader on the bus. So, I also want to thank the Lakota School District for bringing all these leaders in our community together, because I think it's really important as a resident. And, you know, my students will go to Westchester schools, even though I live in Liberty Township. And so it's important to me that we do work together, and we are leaders of the community. So we should be leading and setting a good example, and just coming together to work together and not waiting for each other to reach across the table. Like, I would like to see more leadership and more ownership, not just the Lakota School District, but from, you know, our township trustees, because our school system is important, whether it's Butler Tech or Lakota. And I just wanted to, you know, represent the residents with families in the community. I mentioned this story, I can't remember if it was last week or whatnot, but I went to Liberty Township Historical Society meeting, because I think it's important. I grew up in Cleveland, but I've lived in the community. I lived in Westchester for a couple of years and then moved to Liberty Township. But I've been here since 2000, so I consider myself a long-time resident. But going to the Historical Society, I've learned about our community, and I went to the Fort Liberty Park talk, and they told us about how it came together back in 1997, how the community came together and raised money and built the park themselves. And I just thought that's such a great sense of community, and we need to bring that back. And that's kind of what I'm asking for and looking for with our leadership, is to bring back community. It's not an us versus them thing. It's not the residents versus the trustees. And so I just, you know, want to encourage you to continue this partnership and reaching across the table, and how you can help lead. And maybe we need more residents to help, you know, facilitate, or you guys facilitate, but, you know, we need more residents to come together and help too. But just thank you for your leadership, and I hope it continues.
All right, Ms. Boyko, I think we're gonna get you out of here on time.
You got another question? Yeah, I didn't sign up, but
Would you like to
just a second here. Nah. I already checked.
reset the timer? Go ahead.
I'm Steve Heisler from Liberty Township, and I've got a couple of 65% things to say as we've been in another meeting, and that is, who's teaching me about my Texas? You said your job is to teach the children. Well, I'm not a child. I've been for a long time. And who tells me that my levy lasts forever or doesn't last forever? Who tells me that my cost of my levy actually goes down? I live in Liberty Township. We talked about some specific addresses earlier, but in my tax bill, my school expense went down this year. Although my taxes went up, we had a Thanksgiving, I had people over, so my taxes just went down. The names they called me, I can't mention here, but my school tax actually went down, although the big tax went up. Now, we had House Bill 355. Who's teaching me about that? My duty as a citizen is to see, what do I pay for parks, and do I need more parks? What do I pay for schools, and do I need more schools? And it's my duty to come to all of you, all of your organizations, and figure out, are you spending my money properly? I got a better idea. You want more money? I'll just say no. I have my own life. I have my own world. So who's teaching me that I should vote for more parks, or I should vote for more schools, or that House Bill 355 is stealing all your money away?
The escalation, why haven't we had a levy since 2013? Didn't you? Well, then why do we need one now? Who's teaching me that? You can't just teach the kids, you need to teach the adults. Did I make it?
You're in. Okay. So takeaway being, everybody will administratively, we'll get together, look at putting another meeting on the schedule that works for everybody sometime in the neighborhood of March. Did anybody believe that I miscaptured the idea? Perfect. Okay. Thank you. With that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn from the Lakota side of things?
Second. You got it.
Mr. D?
I'll second.
Mr. D?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Does Liberty need to do the same?
Second.
Mr. Fair?
Yes.
Mr. Schramm?
Thank you all for coming today at 10:07.